Good evening and welcome to the June 19th, 2019 regularly scheduled East Long Meadow Board of Library Trustees meeting. It is now, according to the clock over there, 6:05 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. This meeting is being both audio and videotaped for future broadcast on LCAT. We will start tonight's meeting with a roll call starting on my left. So,
Melanie Manheim.
Layla Johnston.
Michael Gray.
Kendra Levesque.
Diane Tiago.
David Boucher.
And Cindy McNaught.
Before we get into the order of business, the usual order of business, I just want to introduce our new library trustee, Kendra Levesque.
Thank you.
And I was hoping, Kendra, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little background about you and so forth. So great.
I am a Springfield Public School teacher. I just moved to East Long Meadow last August, and I'm excited to be a part of the board.
We're excited to have you.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
great.
thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do at this point in time, we're going to move on to the meeting of May 15th, the minutes of the May 15th meeting. Did everyone have an opportunity to read them?
Yes.
And I know you weren't here, so I know you can't vote really because you weren't here to know what was going on. So we'll just, but at least it gives you a little guide of what was been up to. So is there any questions or comments with regards to the meeting, the minutes, or any corrections that anyone has to bring to our attention? Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll motion to accept the minutes.
All right. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second the motion.
Okay, Cindy. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay. We do not have any guests at this time, but if somebody should come in, we'll be happy to acknowledge them. We'll go on to the director's report, the narrative.
Okay, so this year's summer reading theme is A Universe of Stories. Library staff are working very hard to put together another fantastic program for our East Long Meadow families. Flyers with program information for the adult, teen, and children's summer reading activities are in your packets. That's what this is here. It has all of the events listed on the back. The summer reading kickoff will be held on Thursday, June 20th. That's tomorrow. We do have rain contingency plans in the west parking lot of the library. The kickoff will feature space-themed games, music by Renee Coro, and refreshments. We hope to see all the trustees there. At our meeting in May, there was a request for training for the Board of Library Trustees. Trustees need to be familiar with their bylaws as well as local and state laws in order to be able to correctly interpret and apply Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioner guidelines. For East Long Meadow Public Library, responsibilities of the Board of Library Trustees are delineated in the town charter. I recommend trustees read the charter in entirety. The charter is local law and supersedes most guidelines in the Massachusetts Public Library Trustee Handbook and Massachusetts general laws. While trustees have traditionally looked to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 78, to delineate the rights and responsibilities of trustees to exert custody and management over public libraries, a local charter will take precedence over Mass general laws, and that's taken from the Trustee Handbook, 2018 edition on page 39. The legal requirements in the town charter discussed during this meeting are not meant to be exhaustive, but meant to clarify the role of the Board of Library Trustees as a policy advisory rather than governing body. And I have copies of the charter here if anybody wants to follow along. The charter gives the authority to direct the administration of the library to the town manager on page 8 under section 2, powers and duties. The town manager shall be the chief executive officer of the town and be directly responsible to town council for the administration of all town affairs placed in his or her charge by or under this charter. The library is removed from the supervision, administration, and governing authority of the Board of Library Trustees and transferred to the town manager under Article 3, Town Manager, Section 2, Subset 4. The town manager shall supervise and direct the administration of all departments, agencies, and offices unless otherwise provided for in this charter. Administration includes hiring, evaluation, and supervision of the administrator, the library director. The library director's employment contract is negotiated with the town manager as required by the charter under Article 3, Section 2, Subset 13. The town manager shall be responsible for the negotiation of all contracts with town employees over wages and other terms and conditions of employment. Article 3, Section 2, Subset 9 removes library building use and control from the Board of Library Trustees. The town manager shall have full jurisdiction over rental and use of all town facilities. The town manager shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of the facilities placed under his or her control by this charter, by bylaw, by vote of the town council, or otherwise. Procedures to be followed to fill board vacancies are found under Article 3, Section 2, Subset 19. The town manager shall advertise all vacancies on town boards and committees in a local newspaper, on the town bulletin board, and on the town's website or other official online repository of municipal information, whether on the internet or accessed through another comparable technology, and shall actively recruit candidates for all appointments to be made by either the town manager or the town council. The composition of the Board of Library Trustees is addressed on page 25, Section 10, Uniform Procedures Applicable to Multiple Member Bodies. All multiple member bodies, when established with the exception of the library trustees, shall be composed of an odd number of members, of not less than 3. The Board of Library Trustees is prohibited from supervising town employees on page 28 through 29, Section 9, Appointed Boards. There shall be 6 library trustees, each serving staggered 3-year terms, with 2 members appointed annually. The library trustees shall perform any state or federally mandated functions or those established by town bylaw, but shall not supervise town employees. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 78, Section 33, requires each library's Board of Trustees to establish a written policy for the selection of library materials and the use of materials and facilities in accordance with standards adopted by the American Library Association. This is the only state-mandated policy requirement. There are no federally mandated functions for library trustees. Budget processes and procedures are addressed in the charter under Article 6, Financial and Fiscal Procedures, page 15. We will review Article 6 at a future meeting. In order to be in compliance with the town charter, I will no longer distribute monthly financial reports. If you would like to review a contrasting example, the Board of Public Works has budget recommendations included in their responsibilities in the charter. You can see the difference on Section 9, Appointed Boards, Subset B. Any pertinent financial news, such as information about state aid to public libraries, will be included in my director's report. The library appropriation from the town for fiscal 20 is $789,135, which meets our municipal appropriation requirement for certification for the state aid grant. Fiscal year 20 begins July 1, 2019. The Memorandum of Understanding. The Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates independently of the town of East Long Meadow and serves as a fundraising organization for the East Long Meadow Public Library. A Memorandum of Understanding is a formal agreement to provide space, services, or other mutually beneficial arrangements between 2 or more organizations reached through negotiations. As stipulated in the town charter, the Board of Library Trustees does not have the authority to negotiate contracts, agreements, or memorandums of understanding on behalf of the town of East Long Meadow. Negotiating a memorandum of understanding with a 501c3 nonprofit organization is not in the purview of this advisory board's responsibilities. So we currently have a conflict of interest situation. The chairperson of the Board of Library Trustees also currently serves on the Board of Directors for the Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library. Attempting to negotiate an agreement between a 501c3 of which the person is a voting director, the Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library, and the East Long Meadow Public Library while serving as chairperson of the Board of Trustees is a violation of conflict of interest laws. In order to be in compliance with Massachusetts conflict of interest law, the chairperson will need to choose one organization to serve, either the Board of Library Trustees or the Board of Directors of the Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library. In addition, the town of East Long Meadow is potentially violating the Massachusetts Anti-Aid Amendment by providing town resources such as dedicated building space and staff support to support the fundraising efforts of a nonprofit organization. The Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library rely on town employees as well as the space provided in the library building to support the ongoing used book sale. The library may need to discontinue the ongoing used book sale and return to one large book sale annually as was past practice. And the library may need to discontinue hosting the Friends seasonal raffle fundraisers, which are also supported by town employees and require use of town resources. And I did include further reading if anybody was interested and wanted more information on the topic. The Massachusetts Public Library Trustee Handbook, Chapter 3, covers town and city charters, as well as the Open Meeting Act and conflict of interest law. And then I also included an article that was on Mass Live related to the Council on Aging in Long Meadow to do with their Friends group, if people were interested in further information on the Anti-Aid Amendment.
So the Mass Live article listed
Mhm.
below, that's for Long Meadow Senior Center, nothing to do with the library, right? So that's a senior center.
That is the long, yes,
Okay.
that, but it was pertinent to our discussion for tonight because it does deal with fundraising on town property.
Are you saying you don't want the Friends to fundraise for you anymore?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
It sounds that way.
My
It sounds like you're putting
concern,
roadblocks in.
my
in the
concern
path.
is the violation of the conflict of interest. And my concern is not in putting roadblocks, I'm trying to protect the library.
From what?
It's my job to ensure that the library is following law, that we're obeying laws.
And so for 30-something years, we haven't been.
I'm not sure, I don't know. This is, like I said, this is a lot of research that I've conducted to prepare for the discussion.
So we
This opens a potential liability
From who?
from the state of Massachusetts.
So you think they'll come after us?
I honestly do not know. I'm not an attorney, and that's why I included the Mass Live article. But it is pretty clear that we're not supposed to be using town employees to conduct fundraising for any group or organization.
But it's fundraising for you.
No, it is not. It's fundraising for the Friends of the East Long Meadow Public Library. They're a separate 501c3 whose mission is to support the library.
I'm a little confused.
That seems like a technicality.
That's not a technicality. That is done to protect the Friends because of the way that they have to be incorporated as a nonprofit. And maybe Diane can help answer some of that. But conducting fundraising on town property on a continuous basis like that it does set us up for further examination and further review.
I honestly don't know of any library that the Friends don't do that with. I
So-
just
so
don't know that.
The large book sale annually that was done that was past practice,
Right.
yes, most libraries do that. I honestly do not know the answers to these questions about the ongoing use of staff. The director of finance would be a better
How is the
person.
staff involved? Like taking?
They handle all of the
money?
cash. They handle all the transactions.
So what would your suggestion be?
I do not know. I do know that this particular board does not have the authority to negotiate any kind of memorandum of understanding with a separate 501c3. Again, these are concerns that I think that the entire board needs to be aware of. And so that's why I put it in my report. It's my job to protect the library, And that's what I'm trying to do.
And the Friends of the Library, they can establish the MOU with you? Is that what you're, I'm just trying to understand this.
A contract negotiation would be through the town manager. I cannot speak
Okay.
on behalf of the town manager. It would also go through the director of finance. I'm just stating publicly that this particular board does not have the authority to negotiate, and I would also be curious to know what it is that the board would think that they're negotiating with. In the sense that the library is now owned by the town controls the space and the building, so I'm not sure what it is that the board would think that they would have to negotiate with. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is.
And it sounds
it's
kind of
basic.
adversarial to me.
I'm not trying to be adversarial.
I mean, that's what
I'm
it's
trying to
coming
follow
across.
the law.
I don't know about anybody else, but to me, it really read like,
Yeah,
wait a minute, you don't really want the board, you don't really want the Friends. And
I'm trying to follow the law, and the law is the charter. And I know that this has been a very
we're very
emotional
aware
struggle.
of the charter. I mean, we were, when we first came on,
Mhm.
and we understand the advisory role. We have abided by that. Are you feeling like you're being micromanaged?
I don't really want to get into feelings and that kind of thing in this venue.
Why this and why now?
Because the chair insisted that we add the memorandum of understanding to the agenda, and that's a conflict of interest. And I'm not trying to be adversarial. I'm trying to protect the library. And I think that this is a very good
Well, so aren't
example of
we. I
me
mean, that's
trying
our
to do
mission,
my
too.
job. I'm trying to follow the rules and do my job. And that's why all of this had to be put into writing for everyone to review as part of my report.
And also keep in mind, the MBLC, in that handbook, and if you read everything there, they say that we as trustees do have to read that, and we do have to become familiar with the MBLC information. But also keep in mind that they have an MOU example for us to take a look at. So whether it's in our hands, or like Layla suggests, it should not be in our hands, or however that is,
That's what you're saying, I think.
What I'm saying
Maybe
is
the
that fundraising on town property for a 501c3 is not something that is allowed under the anti-aid amendment. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying, I don't want to get into any kind of conflict or anything like that with the Friends. What I'm saying is that if we bring this to the director of finance, and by we I mean me and the town manager, they're going to state we are not allowed to do this. And this was the example from the Friends of the Council on Aging, I think is their name, from Longmeadow. This is, I'm trying to do my job by alerting everyone here to the rules and to the law. And because of the ongoing emotional piece of this, because people really care about the library, I care about the library. I'm just trying to protect everyone involved. I do not think that they're going to tell, they being the director of finance or the town manager or anyone, is going to say, yes, have a permanent ongoing used book sale. That's a violation of the anti-aid amendment. We would be fundraising on town property for a separate 501c3. It does not matter who the 501c3 supports. And that was the example from Longmeadow. It was almost exactly what is going on right now. That the farther that they looked into it, the more that they realized with this new building, and I don't want to speak for them, but the more that they realized that they could not set up a permanent fundraising area for their Friends group because of the restrictions with the anti-aid amendment.
When did that come, I mean, when did that come about, that anti-aid?
Oh, this has been around, this version,
Sorry.
Yeah, amended.
originally ratified in 1855,
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
present provisions in 1917,
Oh, boy.
another more amendments in the 1972, 73, and 74.
Okay. The world has changed since then.
And if we're questioning that now, or if you're questioning that now, how about other Massachusetts public and private and small libraries. Because I just saw a couple of days ago an Excel spreadsheet on, I think it was 2017, the year 2017, the Friends and Trustees Foundation and the governance, and how many Massachusetts towns or cities, and it listed the library name, the Friends, if they have a Friends board at the library, and what type of town do they have? Do they have a chartered town? Do they have a, is it a mayor? I forget
Mayor, yeah.
how it was categorized. But on that spreadsheet, and I can forward it to all of us here, it's interesting that some libraries do have Friends. A lot of them, I think the number's around 360 something in Massachusetts alone. And some towns who have libraries do have the Friends and some don't. So if we're going through that now, perhaps other towns are questioning that as well. I don't know, and I don't know what their experience is. But we can only learn by other Massachusetts libraries, I think. If you take a look at that.
Okay,
It's
I have some
300 something
questions
Friends
too.
groups.
So, as a director, do you like having a book sale going on?
I think it does a great service for the town. I do. But what I have to follow the law.
No, I understand. Now, hang on a sec. So if it was up to you, regardless of the law, would you like to have an ongoing sailor once a year? It's your call. What would you?
It's not my call though. That's,
I'm saying theoretically.
I don't,
We're not going to do that.
I
Okay.
don't want to play kind of hypotheses or
All right.
in an ideal
the
world.
Friends of the Library. Do you
Mhm.
appreciate all that the Friends of the Library
Of
do
course,
for you? And
of course I do.
okay, so it seems to me the issues that you have here, one is that someone is on both the
Yeah.
Friends and the other thing. Well, that's easy to solve. It might not be a happy thing to solve, but it's easy to solve.
But I don't see a real conflict there.
And the
Um,
MOU
because
could
No,
be,
but if
the
It's not a
MOU
voting
could be
minute.
designed by the
She's
Friends.
voting
for
Say
both.
that.
The MOU could be designed by the Friends. We wouldn't.
Right.
If I may,
Yeah.
first of all, if there's an action item on the Friends, I don't vote.
Right, that's
I know better than to vote
right,
because I'm on this board.
right.
I've gone over there as liaison, and what had happened was the individual who was treasurer became an employee of the library. And so what ended up was that nobody
Stepped up.
So I ended up, as you know, my background, I ended up preparing profit and loss statements for the Friends so that when a request would come in by the staff that they were looking for money for whatever it was, they could look at what the dollar amounts were so they could make an educated decision. I never voted on my own treasurer's report or profit loss report. I never voted on anything because that's not
That would be
right.
a conflict then.
That's definitely a conflict. Now, what happens is the reason why I brought up the MOU, and I understand the MOU would have to be something between the town, with the town manager or the council. What happens is, I would assume, and maybe I assumed incorrectly, that there might have to be a couple of people from this board as a subcommittee, along with a couple of people from that board as a subcommittee, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe the town manager, the library director, might be a part of that, and they would come up with some type of memorandum of understanding. That's, I'm not taking sides on this. I'm right down the middle. And what happens is, this is what brought it up again. And what happened was, a few years back, it was brought to the trustees' attention. We were in the midst of, you're shaking your head, we were in the midst of doing a library director search, and we were in the midst of the voting, the discussion about whether to go charter, the home rule charter, or leave things alone. So nothing ever happened on it. Nothing. No action was taken. And last year, during the summer, I got a call from one of the staff saying that the museum passes, which were a setup, it was I call it a perk or an incentive to join the Friends, was what it was supposed to be. It was like, oh, if you're a member, then
This
you
is
get,
one of your perks.
this is one of the perks for joining up. And I received a communication saying, oh, this is what's happening. We don't like people going out the door upset because we're saying, oh, well, you're not a member, so therefore, and really, it was not up to the staff to be saying, you can, you can't.
Right.
It was totally wrong, totally wrong. So you'll see, I brought it to the attention of the president of the Friends, and I had talked with Layla about it and agreed with her 100% that, the staff just forget about those restrictions, just shh, and then we'll have to talk to the Friends about it.
Right.
Okay? And so it was on their agenda in September. And of course, you know how I am about details. To prove a point to the members as they sat around, and we went and I got information from other libraries like along the Connecticut River, and so forth. So they could see that they were the odd guys out as far as the museum passes were concerned. They were the only ones,
That said you had to be a member.
that said you had to be a member of it.
Right.
Everybody else was free. Every other library, you come in, you show a card, you want a museum pass, you got it. So that was discussed in September and so forth. Then of course, that was kind of a tug of war with some of the,
Oh, I
the,
bet.
the older members who liked that. They didn't want to give it up. So we had another meeting in October, and what the discussion was at that point in time about the museum passes was, well, what category for bookkeeping purposes should we put it in? And so they said, should be gifts to the library. So it's like, okay. So there were still some people who still didn't want to let go, and they were still trying to think of, well, how could we still get the, say, upper advantage if I want a museum pass and somebody else wants the same museum pass. They were looking to see if they could be number one rather than number, they can't have it for the day and so forth. They were looking for some kind of slight advantage. And that's when I said, it's a gift to the library. It's now it's property of the library, and it's up to the administration of the library to determine what the criteria is.
It's a gift,
for-
no strings attached. That's it.
No strings attached. This is not their place to call. What's to be done with museum
I
passes?
mean, they could decide they're not giving passes. That would be something.
Well,
But they
it's a first-
decided to do this.
Yeah.
And so then.
But they certainly, Lilo, you guys decided it's a first come, first serve, which makes sense, right? And the only thing was, if somebody called them in advance, what is it, an hour or two in advance or something like that? They're there, they call first, okay, we'll be down and so forth and so forth. So it wasn't up to the Friends to make up what
The rules.
the rules are. You've got it. It's a gift. When you give a gift, that's theirs. So that's what brought me back to the memorandum of understanding in my mind that brought me back to 2016, 15, 16, to when I first was made aware of it and brought it to the attention of the trustees at that time. Now, I brought it forward, so I brought it back to, as you can see, this all took place last fall. So I did. I brought it back up again, brought it to the forefront. I happen to think that it's a good business practice, especially when there's some little gray areas, because it kind of, that's why I've been giving you those sheets. This is the trustees, and don't cross over this line, and this is the directors, and don't cross over this line, and this.
So it's kind of the rules of each organization and their role.
Yes, 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 yes.
And it outlines, but it's not a law.
No,
It's just a kind of to have each entity understand what their role is.
Yeah, yeah.
And to try not to cross over
Yes,
people's roles.
because we all want what's best for the library. I
And
think we're
is
all.
that against the law?
Of course, it's not against the
So
law.
what
but
is it?
I'm not.
I don't get it.
It is not. It is not considered legal to have permanent fundraising for a different 501c3 going on permanently on town property.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the, what did you call it? Something
Memorandum of understanding?
What would this board be negotiating for then?
Clarity. It's clarity of, well, if
What this board would, I think what you're saying, and I could be very off, I don't know, but I think what you're saying is the clarity of what the role of the Board of Library Trustees is in regard to the library. And then there would be an understanding with the Friends as to what their role is with the library. And then there would be an understanding with the library of what each of these roles would be.
Yeah.
And if there's a conflict, like say, no, that's not your purview.
Yeah.
Then that would be discussed and brought up, and you can clarify what your role is. Is that what it is?
Well, that to me, it's something to kind of like, here's the line, here's the line. And what happens is you can't tell the administration how to do this, and so forth. And administration can't say, well, they can ask, they can ask or submit a wish list, and so forth, and ask for certain fundings for certain things, but they can't just automatically assume that the kitty is a part of their.
But that's what I used to have to do. I would have to say I would wish for funds for this program or that program or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And then they would come back and say, well, maybe we can give you this much, or we don't want to fund that, and that would be up to them.
Right.
And
they do have their own budget, and they have money set aside in their own budgets into certain categories as to where the money should be spent. So they've gotten a little bit better about being business financing, making sure they have the budget to cover stuff that they covered the previous year, so forth. So if I brought it up. I didn't mean to be mixing up the spot, stirring up the pot. I thought it was just something that was good business practice, and it just helped.
Don't they recommend that in the
MBLC.
Yeah, MBLC. I thought they did.
I thought so as well.
Well, it was one of the items that was suggested.
Right, I saw that.
Okay, that's part of the reason was an item that was suggested, and that was, so my understanding was that So going forward, you have something here today. And what happens is with the future, as time moves forward, and there's different people that come onto the scene, and, you know, changes are made, you know, as far as jobs or people who come and they leave, they move on to, that there is something in place
Guidelines,
so,
yeah.
so that,
That regardless of personalities, whatever else.
yeah, well,
It's
this is
just
like,
the-
they can change, they certainly can change, anybody can change it, but at least everybody said, well, this is where we started, this is where it is at this point in time. You want to change it, you know, change it, but at least there's something, what do I want to say? Something that can be looked upon, so
Well-
that there's no misunderstandings.
Lila, what's the difference if someone was to give $10,000 to the library
Yeah,
and you're getting interest on that money and the library?
yeah.
Not the, how does that work?
Right. So if somebody gives a gift,
Right,
that's deposited to the library's gift account.
right,
The director of finance has control of that.
right.
They are in charge of all the interest and those other kinds of questions that you're asking.
Questions, okay. That's why I'm questioning it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems similar to the Friends, but they're just they're in a room over here.
It's
or
the-
they have
it's the
I know,
use
it's the
of-
use of,
yeah.
okay, it's the use
Yeah.
of employees, but if they don't use the employees, can they have their meetings here?
Oh, of course. I mean,
Okay.
the issue is not having
Yeah.
meetings or even conducting once a year type of sales or whatever. It's the ongoing use of the town resources that is really setting us up to be told that we can't do, and that's the law. Like, this isn't me being punitive. This is me bringing all of this to the board's attention. That
1884.
So are you saying that the way I'm kind of interpreting this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, if the Friends has I'm trying to think how this would work. If they had an ongoing book sale for 2 months, should that be shortened to 2 weeks?
it's
Is there
the
a
staff
timeline?
handling the cash
Or should it be not at
transactions.
all?
Or not at
It's
all?
the staff, the library staff are the ones handling all of the cash transactions, all of the donations. It's the use of the space and the staff as supporting that is causing the biggest area of concern.
Okay, now wait a minute. I need some clarification on several things here. And so we gotta get this out tonight, okay?
Don't, Michael.
Yes.
Right, all right. So, I understand that your issue legally is that the Friends, who exist totally to support you, the library, have some fundraising things that go on that require your staff
That's where we're getting into
To-
trouble, yes.
well, we're not getting into trouble. You've just discovered that we could get into trouble if the library police found out about it, right?
Well, it would be the director of finance, the town manager. We can be investigated under state ethics
Okay,
laws.
got
It
it,
is a big deal.
Got it, okay,
Yeah.
got it. So I understand that. So when you say you may need to discontinue or you may need to discontinue these things, my wife is the person who runs the raffle fundraisers for the library. They're here because the people that were most likely to buy tickets for this, which benefit the library, would be people that come into the library. So to have that in the library as opposed to, on the town green or at a restaurant somewhere, this is the best place to have people who value a library give money to the library, right? So the issue now is only the money, of dealing with the money, correct? Just
The staff dealing with
The
the money.
staff
all right,
handling all of it.
So let's just think about this. I had a creative job back in the old days.
There you go.
Okay? Say that the staff is now not going to handle the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the money, people buy tickets and they're not gonna buy them from the front desk or anything. They're just gonna put the money in in a bin or something. The friends will have to
Like an
A
figure,
donation bin.
they'll have to
Donation.
figure something else out where your staff is no longer involved in handling the money, even though all that money is gonna come back to you, okay? So it sounds to me like that's a fixable thing. Okay.
But that is not a fixable thing if we are, so how would we then handle this for, the, animal shelter, Dakin? Dakin comes in and says, we wanna set up a donation can and a recycled pet products, something in your corner. How do we then say
You could
no?
just say no. You could just say no.
I'm alerting you to the
No,
all of
here-
the
here
issues
is
that I have to.
another company,
Entity.
another entity wants to come in and put their little, hey, support us in the library, and you can just say, here's
How would I
here's
say
our
no?
rule book, and you say, no, the library is a place where people come to get books, and there's a lot of people like Dakin. There's all kinds of stuff, the Cancer Society or the Red Cross, or there's all kinds of,
Yes.
a home for battered women or whatever. There's a lot of places that could come to you and say, you know what, you're a town, and the people come in here and we need a place to put our donation can, Salvation Army, whatever, you can go on and on. You just say no. What do you mean, how can I not
Because
say
I
no?
need to point to policy and I need to
Right.
point to the law.
Well, is there a policy in the law? Yes.
Yes.
So you can say no, right? Can you say no now to Dakin?
I feel like we're going down a path that's not addressing the concerns that I've raised, which are
Okay.
the concerns that I feel need to be
Right.
addressed for the library.
So let's talk
which is
about
the
that.
conflict of interest.
Right, so let's go into that right now. The first thing is that you say on here in the third line that the person is a voting director.
The Friends have a board of directors.
Right, I understand. But we found out from that person that they don't vote. So they're not actually a voting director. But that person provides a critical job for the Friends, and the person is particularly qualified and motivated to do that job. I know from my wife being in charge of the raffle fundraiser and caring about the library as I do, that the Friends has some issues with recruiting people right now. There's some openings and there's some things going on, and they need good, dedicated people. So it seems to me, for us, including you, to somehow want to carve away, because of a law, someone just being unmotivated to help, that's counterproductive. So I think this might be solved if you and the town manager and this person and Diane could meet together
It's
and
pretty
just say,
clear if you
what
you
should we
just
do
took the
here?
recent training for the Massachusetts Conflict of Interest Law.
yeah,
It is very clear in the training. It's also very clear in the handbook here that even the appearance of a conflict of interest is considered a violation of the law. The appearance that having access to the agenda and then
Okay.
negotiating something that would be favorable to a 501c3, that looks like a conflict of interest and that is a violation
Okay.
of the law.
Okay, I
And it's in
understand.
the handbook. I'm not trying to pick on people. I'm simply stating that we need boundaries to protect the library.
say, again, there's a million, my job for 30 years was being creative, so is it possible that Diane could be a director and do her job for the Friends and not vote? And it's stipulated, she's not gonna vote. So would that be acceptable for
I
you?
abstain. I abstain
know.
from voting.
She
I
has-
know, but the point is, if
I
it's
need
made
to
a
do what
little
is best
more
for the
formal,
library.
it's maybe then there's no issue. I'm just trying to solve that problem. I feel, as a citizen, as well as a member of the board, that Diane is a terrific leader of this board.
An asset.
And she's a tremendous asset. She's motivated, she cares, and she's smart, and she does the job, and she does more than the job. And I'm continually impressed by the time that she spends to try to be the leader of this ragtag band. And I don't want to lose her.
Neither
So
do
that's
I.
number one. Number two, it sounded to me from what you said that she provides a necessary and motivated skill that she has, that she does for the Friends. So the issue is there's got to be a way, without any bad feelings or whatever, to redefine things so that Diane can still be on both but not violate anything. If it's the only
I
issue
don't know
is
how I can redefine, I'm
no, all we
not,
can do is have her on the Friends, not be a voting director, but still let her do her, if she's willing to do that. I mean, is that a big deal? Could you still do whatever you do for the Friends, but not be a voting director?
That's what I've been doing.
Okay.
well, it's pretty clear here, also in the handbook,
Does that mean Melanie can't be on the board? and
as
on
a,
the-
as a director, correct. And this is why when Darcy was hired, she was previously on the board of directors for the Friends, and she had to leave that organization to become a town employee.
But-
Under conflict of interest laws, everyone in this room is considered a municipal employee. So the same policy that applies when Darcy had to choose, it's also in the handbook as well, that under extreme circumstances would be the only reason that we would consider having the conflict of interest kind of snafu that we're dealing with right now.
What brought this up and why now? I mean, this has been going on for years and years and years and years.
I'm not the only person, though, that is on boards in town, and
Right.
is also on a
Another
non,
one.
yeah,
Right, like George Kingston.
yes, yeah. So,
Right.
I mean, I can't speak for him. I do know there's other people on other boards here in town, and they're also on nonprofit organizations.
Right.
So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell any of you.
Right.
But I've done, I did try to be just right straight down the line with everybody, and my only focus has been to help make this the best library there is, and
Did
to
you
be
get a call
support
from
that.
somebody from the state to say, hey, wait a minute, you're in violation of this? And
No.
we're coming after you, or, so why did this come up now?
The memorandum of understanding discussion has gone on for a
Oh,
couple months.
because of that.
Yeah,
That was the catalyst for this.
yeah.
Okay.
So
I
the-
couldn't understand.
So
I
the
mean,
Yeah, we've been talking about this MOU, the memorandum of understanding, in meetings for 2 or 3 months now.
That's right.
Do we need this memorandum of understanding or not?
MBLC recommends it.
Right.
It's very simple like that, but if the Friends do it, then.
I'm
they
trying
can
to
do
let you
that.
know that if the Friends bring this to the town manager, you will be told no. It's, I'm trying to do this in a very, the most
Diplomatic way.
transparent and public way that I can, which is during this meeting, which is when this kind of business should be discussed. The anti-aid amendment is very clear, and that's why I was hoping that people could look at the Mass Live article about the Friends of the Long Meadow Council on Aging, and just about how they went through this very same process. The more that they looked into it, the more that they realized that there needed to be a better separation so that they were following the law. So I don't know what, like, the Friends may have good intentions if they try to bring this to the town manager. What is most likely going to happen is that town council, COUNSEL, the town attorney will take a look at all of this and state, no, and here are all these other things that are going to have to stop immediately. So that's, I'm just trying to protect the library the best that I can.
Do you have, can you tell us if, you say you're trying to protect the library?
Yes.
But you're not sure from who?
I'm trying to protect the library from any kind of legal violations that could be going on. And that could be the state, most likely.
Okay, well, none of us want that.
Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that,
So but
I'm
there's
hoping
a
that my
solution to all this.
expertise will actually be taken into consideration during this discussion
All right.
here.
So, all right, I have some more things to say. I think that as trustees, we benefit by having members that are on the Friends. I think that if we're, I mean, it sounds like from what you gave us here that all we are policy advisors.
That's correct.
That's it,
Yes.
policy advisors. So if you want to, you can reject all of our advice and just do what you want. Is that correct?
I suppose. I don't know. I don't know what you're getting at, and I don't like to play hypothetical
Right.
games. So
Right, but I'm just saying, I think that we can advise you better. If that's all you want us for, is to advise you on policy, that we can advise you better the more informed we are. And there's a whole lot that I'd like to know that I don't, okay? I mean, I'm on the board now, and I've been for a year, and there's a lot I still don't know. I think that you have this group that's its own entity that raises money for you, that you can actually request, that I need some money for something, and they'll try to raise money for you. So it seems to me that's something that the town should like, because instead of you going to the town for that money, you can go to the Friends for that money, and they'll drum up some cash for you, and that's an asset for you. So you should value that, right?
I'm not sure. I need to know your question, Michael. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at.
When I look on here, what I'm seeing is that you feel that, number one, having someone who's a voting director on the Friends and the head of the Board of Trustees is a problem. That's problem one in the first paragraph. And in the second paragraph, the problem is that the Friends are doing things on library property that require your staff to handle money or do something. And the problem with that is that their labor is contributing to another organization that's not a part of the town or the library.
That is the way the law is written.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got that straight, right?
Mhm.
So those are the two issues.
Yes.
So I think the five of us right now should think fast, and we need to advise Layla, which she can reject if she wants, as to how to solve these two problems. That's why we're here. If we can't meet separately for some legal reason and, go over and have a coffee and noodle this out, for some reason we can't do that.
Open Meetings Act. That's
We
why you
need-
can't do that.
We need to do that here.
Right.
And so, whether it's here, whether we have another meeting, whether we do it at the next meeting, these are two problems. And it seems to me, and I'm just giving my novice 1-year trustee opinion, that I think that having skilled, motivated people on the Friends who help the library and skilled, motivated management of this trustee group is all of it helps the library. So
Right.
so I think it's too bad that we have to tweak something to make it legal, but there's a solution to it. The second thing is this other thing about may need to discontinue the ongoing book sale, just for the sake of argument, or not that's just for my information. How much money just does the used book sale bring into the library? Do you have some ballpark figures that bring in $1,000 a year or 500, or
I'm
you
not
have
sure
some
why.
idea? I'm just curious. What do you have in your head? Do you know how much it brings in?
Is
it worth it?
I do know, but I feel that I'm not
I just want to know if it's worth
understanding
it.
what this. I just
Because we're getting
I'm bringing this to the attention of the
this,
full board.
I know, and we're going to solve it for you. But what I'm saying is, if the book sale brings in, $100, and it's causing this problem, and it could be a legal problem, then, the Friends could do something else, or have a book sale at the senior center or whatever. We can figure that out, or the Friends can figure that out if it's not a big deal. But if it's significant, and that's why I asked you before, but you didn't answer my question, which is if you value, let's just say over the year it's $1,500 or $5,000, I don't know, whatever, $5,000. People are buying these books for $1, and they come in and they buy these books because it's a good deal. Now it's something that like oh, that's some cash that you like to have for the library. You can reinvest it, you can buy new books, maybe hire another person, whatever it is. Then you should be not wanting this to discontinue. You should.
This is
you
not
should want
about
us
my
to solve it.
feelings, my desires,
yes, it
nothing
is.
like that at all. This is about me,
You won't even,
pointing-
but you won't tell me whether you want it to continue.
because I'm not gonna play hypothetical games. I'm simply trying to point out, here is the law, here is what is being brought to your attention.
Well, it seems to me like the law is not benefiting the library right now. It's in the way. It's not helping the library out. And it says may need to discontinue hosting the seasonal raffle fundraisers. Now that again is the reason for both of those things are that your staff has to somehow handle the money. Is that correct?
Yes.
They buy the
Okay.
tickets from the
And I
staff.
also feel
Right.
compelled to point out that my staff are also in labor unions,
Yeah.
and nowhere in their job description does it say that they will handle, on behalf of another organization, any of the current duties that they have.
Right.
So we've also got job description
Okay. So
situation going on.
there's two people from the Friends here. Let me just ask both of you. Well, I'm actually a friend of the library too.
And,
I am
and
too.
we all are.
But being on the board of
So-
directors
That's
is
different.
different
I
from
would
being a
get you.
friend. Everyone
Okay.
should be a member of the Friends, that's fantastic. I'm talking about the governance.
Right, I got it. These seasonal fundraisers, they have to be here. They have to be here in the library. So, again, as the director, you're part of this group. Okay?
No, I'm not.
You're not.
No, I'm not. I'm the director of the library, and then the board of trustees is a
Oh.
separate body.
All right, so you're not part of this group.
No.
Well, all right. So, but we have an issue, and the issue is we have these raffles, and your people. Okay, if we can solve this problem somehow so that your people don't have to take the money for the books, and your people don't have to take the tickets or the money or whatever for the fundraisers, are you happy to have them continue? Will you answer that?
I would be happy to have the memorandum of understanding tabled
Oh, yeah.
and not get into a bunch of again, I don't want to play what about this and what about that, because we need to understand the full legal ramifications of everything that we're talking about.
When you say we need to understand
We,
it,
as in everyone in the room.
do you think you have a full understanding?
I hope so. I'm trying. I'm learning. I hope I have a very good understanding, because that's my job.
But it's
I'm the administrator. I'm trying to follow the rules,
I understand.
protect the library,
Right.
and do my job.
I understand, but it just seems like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you're trying to obey the law.
Again, I don't have a choice. I can't choose which laws I want to comply with and which ones I don't.
Okay,
That
so-
would be wonderful if I could.
So I yield to the
Yeah.
other people.
Now, the way it says it's a 501c3 nonprofit, it
Yeah.
sounds like it. Now, it doesn't give money to anybody else, does it?
The Friends? No, their mission is just to support
Right.
us. Yeah.
So just for the library.
Yes.
Not to the homeless shelter. Not
Correct.
The
to
daycare.
Not that
Right.
I'm aware of.
right.
Yes.
So it's all here.
hmm
Okay. It doesn't say that really. It just says it's a
Yeah.
nonprofit organization, which it
Because-
is. I know, but it's for the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's also why, again, no matter what the mission is, even though the mission of the Friends is to support the library, the mission cannot be taken into account
Right.
when.
Well, that's
the
why we have
legal-
attorneys, I guess. So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have to-
exactly. At least that's the way it's been explained to me.
Right.
And
We just have to find someone from 1855.
Right.
yeah,
Shouldn't be a problem.
You know,
So this law's been on the books since 1855?
Yeah.
Almost like the blue laws.
We can all laugh about it, but
It's
I
not
think
funny.
we gotta solve it here. We
Yeah.
have to do it on
Yeah.
camera.
Right.
We have to do it with Layla, that's why we're here, and we have a problem.
Well, should
So-
the town manager be here as well?
well, I mean, I guess. Why
I'm the
not?
director. So if you want to call the town manager in, we can. But I just do feel pretty strongly that as the administrator, that this group should be able to have a conversation and figure these things out without resorting to calling in the town manager for something like this.
Well, I know, but there's other, like you mentioned, there were other entities in town that.
There are
Are
other,
probably
there
not
are other
complaints either.
entities, I'm kind of,
Then they can concern themselves with that. I'm only concerned with the library.
no, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just kind of curious how those individuals, how they're doing. And maybe they don't have anything to do with the MOU either.
Yeah.
That could be a part of it too. I don't know. I really
But
don't
maybe
know.
they just don't say anything and everything's running smoothly.
Yeah,
Right.
They're raising money for whatever their situation is,
Right.
and they don't bring up the 1855 laws, and it's like, you know, everything's cool. I mean, I don't want to violate the law. I'm
No.
not suggesting that at all,
No.
but I think that, you know, our job is to have a great library.
Yeah.
Okay, and if all we're here to do is to advise, then we have to look at these two paragraphs, these two problems,
Right.
and the question I guess I have is there a way that all of us can meet off camera or not to solve this problem? How do we solve the problem? I mean,
You have to follow
You
Open
have to-
Meetings Act.
all right,
Unless you go
Okay.
into executive session. I don't
Executive
know.
But this is
session.
not a topic that could be covered
Exactly,
under
that's why I
executive
just said,
session.
this wouldn't
Right.
qualify for that.
so if all of us, no, that's would be against the open meeting laws. You have to be, you have to be
well
here.
then we all need to get more informed so that we know as much as she does,
Yep,
and then we can sort of be six brains instead of one and try to help you, because we would like you to have a way to raise money for the library, which is the Friends, and have it all be happy. And as advisors here, we want to give you,
Policy advisors.
yeah, well, just policy advisors. That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I should think there's a way around this, because it's not gonna be helpful to the library. The Friends of the Library raised the money to build this building, a third of it. As a matter of fact, isn't there still a clause in there about, that it has to remain a library for so many years?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I would think that the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners would have some, they must know about this law,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And maybe they would have advice on how other libraries handle it, because there's probably a lot of libraries not following the law.
That's the concern of their governing boards then. We're not concerned with other,
But we are concerned with
we're
this
concerned with this
library
one.
being helpful to the Friends and not make it more difficult for them.
Yep.
It's hard enough to raise money
Yep.
without saying, well, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do the other thing, until they say, then we're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's what's gonna
It's
happen.
happened.
So.
And we don't wanna see that happen.
Right, but every once in a while, there's a bad law that pops up.
Right. And maybe the
So-
law needs to be changed.
That's
Well-
exactly.
I guess then you could go for advocacy.
Well, I mean, the laws have been changed, so
I
you.
mean,
Correct.
Are we
Maybe it's
allowed
not.
Correct.
are we allowed to have a lawyer in here and talk to him about it?
There's a town
It's
council.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I've only been a trustee for a year, but
Right.
it seems to me it's in Layla's best interest to have
Not just
the
Layla, it's
about the
others
library.
the
too.
library's
It's
best
about-
interest.
It's about the
Yeah,
library.
the library's best interest, but she really represents the library. And to have a viable, thriving, productive, financially, sound organization that every bit of volunteering and money raising. I mean, I know my wife, she buys all the stuff for some baskets and stuff like
Right.
that. That's our money.
Right,
But we donate that to
Right.
raise money to get tickets that somebody gets something good. I mean, you want that, you know, so.
And I mean, you even mentioned, Michael, I believe that, you know, maybe you could do it at the senior center, but under this law, you couldn't do that
No.
there either.
Nope.
Because that's a town building.
Correct.
Is that, if that's what I'm understanding?
So I feel like we need to talk, I just, you know, unless it's against the law, you know, I'm willing to go to the town manager and I'm willing to go to the town lawyer and say, we just have this, I think this is issue 2. Issue 1,
Right.
I think you gotta figure that. We can't tell you what to do, right?
Right.
No?
Right.
I don't think.
Don't tell me what to do.
No, I don't think we can tell you what to do. If it's I mean, even if you're a director, but you don't vote, since your position is a voting position, and the law reads that you can't do that, then, you know, the question is, can you do what you do, but not be a voting director? You're just a member, but you still do everything.
Or maybe
And
you
you can
can,
still go to the meetings, you're just not a voter.
maybe you
And
can
like-
sign an affidavit
Yeah.
that you will not enter into any
Yeah.
votes. You'll
So-
You'd
just
be
be
excused from voting.
voting.
I
Or
think
maybe
it's-
you won't be
excuse
called
yourself.
a director, you'll be the financial advisor or something.
Because
I'm sure there's some, I think the devil is in the title.
In the language.
It's in the language, right?
Right.
I really feel that having someone, a friends person here,
Right.
either as a guest or a member, helps us to be more informed. Because,
Well, that's
So
what,
I
that's
like
what I
that.
see too, Michael. I see that we're 3 entities all working for the common good of to make this the best library it can possibly be.
right,
All right, and so if there is a conflict with one entity over another of those entities,
yeah.
there should be a way to come together and resolve that for the benefit of the library. Would you not agree? Or
I don't know. You know, this
I
is.
mean, that's not,
I do not know what is going to be allowed. That's why I'm saying we just table this whole discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that the potential to be told that we can no longer conduct any fundraising, no matter what the
Right.
cause, is much higher than the potential for being told, sure, we're going to finagle all these ways for you to continue doing. They're going to tell us
But-
just to stop.
but is not the can of
Or
worms
not.
already opened?
I don't know. Again, this is.
It might not be.
I don't know.
This whole problem could be just in this room.
That's right.
Okay.
No.
So it's totally possible that if we all tabled this
Yeah, I think
and
we should
did
table this.
nothing, no changes, no nothing.
Right.
You're still doing that in
Right.
both things, and it's in violation, although, I don't know, maybe that.
I do think it's still a conflict of interest, though, to have someone. It's right
So do
here.
you want
This
it
is
But
tabled?
not
she is
just
not,
me.
Right, but do you want it
if she is
tabled?
not a
Do you-
director,
right,
then
but-
it is not a
But do you want it
conflict of interest.
tabled, or do you want it acted on?
I want the MOU tabled, absolutely, in the best
Okay.
interest
Yeah, I
of the
think we should
library.
table
Yeah, we'll
it.
table it.
We can table
I'd
that.
like to look into the nonprofit
Yeah.
organization
Yeah.
and do all that.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, church. There's everybody's nonprofits now. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, I mean,
This is
they're-
all solvable.
everybody.
If
Yes.
we
Yeah,
have to do it
absolutely solvable.
here, we need to get some experts in here, and we need to work on it.
I agree,
So
Michael.
it needs to go on the agenda in the future. I'm not here the next meeting, I'm gonna be in the hospital, but, or no, well,
The nerve.
I'll be back, but
Yeah.
I won't be,
And
I
that's
won't be
fine.
able to drive.
That's fine.
But I'll be here in August, so. But let's get the right people in here and
Yeah.
let's decide to solve it or to just let it go. If that's what every other library is doing, just not bringing it up and they just cruise along, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
We just need, I think, I agree.
You look like you wanted to
If
say
it's
something.
tabled, the trustees don't have a role in it anymore, is my recommendation. I feel that this is not, it's not something that the trustees can negotiate on behalf of the town, whether it be access to the space or whatever it is that was the original goal. This is not something that can be appropriately, or I'm not sure the exact word to use here, but if you read the article that I sent everyone from the law, did anyone read it?
Yes.
Did anyone have a chance to read it?
Yes, I did.
They were told that the more that they look into this, they were told by an attorney, the more that they realize they cannot do this. And one example was, oh, well, and again, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not quoting exactly, don't
Right.
go back and watch the meeting again and hold it against me. That the one suggestion was that any funds raised by this separate Friends organization of the senior center, whatever they call it, Council on Aging there, be put into a separate account that would then be used to pay, if they paid rent to the town, would that money then go into a separate account that could then be used for programming? And the answer was no. So I don't, again, the answer is usually, well, we'll look into that. That means no. I'm trying to explain to you that there really is not a way for this to work out in the way that Michael is describing as some sort of like a win-win situation. It would be a very drastic change in the way that we are currently operating.
So what you're suggesting is to table, the whole thing swirls around this memorandum of understanding. And if that is tabled or kind of goes away, then this problem goes away?
For now, yes. I don't know. I mean, again,
It won't be brought up. It won't be brought up.
It may be something that is looked into in the future by the director of finance or by the town manager, but it would not be something that would be initiated by this particular group or by the Friends.
So, because the town manager really has control over the buildings
Yep.
and everything, then it would be something more in her interest rather than to discuss with the Friends. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm
No.
not saying that at all.
Okay.
I'm
I'm just trying to
talking to right now, all I'm referring to right now is this entire discussion about the Board of Trustees attempting to negotiate any kind of agreement with a separate 501c3 is not in this advisory body's role. And I don't know about other explorations or interpretations of other legal advice or anything like that. What I'm saying is that this particular group does not have the authority to enter any kind of agreements or negotiations.
Yes.
So I make a
Motion.
a motion that we table the MOU, right?
Yeah, I think we should second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Can we proceed now?
Moving on, but I gotta be honest, I don't think that we ever had a motion on her report, on Layla's report,
The directors.
the director's report.
Are you done?
I'm done. But I do feel compelled that we still have a conflict of interest situation, though, that was not addressed. So I don't know how the board as a whole wants to leave that.
Are we
I
allowed
think
to
we should
talk to
table
each
that.
other? Can I talk to Cindy on the phone about something like this?
Yes.
That's against the open meeing law.
Just two of us can't even talk about something?
Well, who knows who's listening in? I don't want to go to jail, Michael. Well, maybe I do.
And I
Well, the
really
thing
need
is-
to request that I be included in a lot of these. I know there's been a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes for the last few months. It's really in the library's best interest to make sure that the library director is included. And the best way to do that is to have these discussions at the open meetings.
I guess I feel like we're not informed enough to advise you. We need somebody else here.
But I'm not looking for any advice on this.
She
I'm
doesn't
looking
want
for
advice.
policy advice.
But you're saying there's still a conflict of interest.
Yes.
And is that is that
So
Diane?
that would not
handling
be,
the
that
whole
would not,
thing?
yeah, that would not be something that needs to be advised on. It would be something that you need to discuss amongst yourselves.
If
Okay.
Diane was not a director, then it would not be a conflict of interest.
If she was
Am I-
simply
is
a
that-
member of the Friends, that would be fine.
That's what I'm saying. If she was not a director.
Is
Yeah.
this something that you and Diane could resolve?
I don't
No,
think so.
Okay,
I don't think so. I think it can be taken care of, though.
okay.
I don't think it's, I don't think it's,
Can you make a motion then somehow to address the fact that she thinks that your double position
Well,
is a
that's
problem?
not on the agenda.
Well, it's not on the agenda, but it is now, if we're talking about it.
So the rules of the agenda, our agenda are our action items. And so
Okay,
for
fine.
something
So-
to be voted on, it
so
has to
I-
be posted.
So I motion that issue be up for discussion in July or August.
okay, well, so just to put it on my,
Just table.
Unless you don't think, is that okay with you?
we can certainly talk about it.
You can
You
say,
may-
That could
you
go
may be
under
getting it-
trustee updates.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to be helpful.
Yes, yeah, we can do it under trustees
Trustee updates, which is on the agenda.
Okay, great.
Okay,
All right. So I motion that we accept Layla's director's report. Except, she says that you're a voting member. I just want to say that your position is a voting position, but you don't vote. Just, I want to clarify that,
Yeah,
because
I
that's
think
not
that's
correct.
That you.
It is correct, it is a voting position. She may
I know I
abstain.
said that, but, yeah, okay. But I just want it,
But she has not
but
voted.
she has not voted. So it's sort of a technicality that she's not violating it because she doesn't vote.
It gives the appearance of a
I
conflict of
understand,
interest.
I understand. We can solve it, I think. It's up to you. Okay,
not a problem.
I don't think it has to be a big deal. We don't want to have bad appearances. This is the best library in the universe, right?
Right.
That's right.
And I'll
Okay.
second the motion to accept the director's report.
Okay.
Where was I? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Are you allowed to say nay?
Am I allowed to say nay? Well, I suppose.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
I could say nay.
You always
I could
ask,
say
but-
abstain,
Okay,
Yeah.
you
all
know.
right.
Okay, so, moving on, I think we've gone through 5 new business. We've kind of conquered that one. So let's go down to the bylaws here. The Board of Library Trustees bylaws. Did anybody have an opportunity to take a look at other library bylaws since we last met, as far as, let's call it, the term limits? Did anybody take a look or have any recommendations? Or Layla, do you have any recommendations?
Well, I was just wondering if you were gonna appoint a committee, because that's how most of the bylaws are worked on. So I was just wondering when you would feel ready to appoint a committee to then actually start some of the rewriting that needs to
Okay.
be done.
All right. And that's, I'm ready for, if there's a couple of people that would like to get going on it, it would be great. I know that I did go to the MBLC's website, and it did kind of have some other libraries. Then you can go to their, look up their bylaws that way. You can just put in, library bylaws in your browser and just get information from all over the United States so you could see how other libraries, what they have in for term limits and attendance at meetings and so forth. One of the things I did see, and Layla, I liked it, it was in the right. It was the C.W. Mars. And one of the things that I did like, that might be another location to look up and so forth. Of course, they're a bigger organization than what we are. And so they have a lot more going on. But I kind of like under their officers. They
This was
have,
for CW Mars as a whole?
I'm just saying, that was one of the, one of the places that I did look, looked at their language. I looked at a lot, it's CW Mars, I looked at Repton and so forth. But one of the things in the CW Mars that kind of, I'll just say, hit my fancy that I liked was that it had standing committees under officers. And I think it was under standing committees. And one of the items was that there would be a nomination committee and a bylaws committee. And reason why I thought those might be good to have is that with a nomination committee, it would help rotate the officers so that, one person isn't the chairman forever. There was some that it was like, well, whoever's the chairman now, or the vice chair now, it's an automatic, they become the chair the following year, and so forth. And, there was one that was like, when I read, and it was, no more than 2 years as chairperson. And I really think that that's a good thing to have. And the reason I say that is because I think sometimes people, you get the slate of officers and so forth. They think when you sit at a table and you're trying to do who's going to do what position, it's like, well, I don't want to hurt that one's feeling, and so forth. Do you want it? Well, and it's very awkward for somebody to say, yeah, I've had enough. Time for me to move on, and so forth. So I thought that a nomination committee would be good based on the way the CW Mars has it set up in theirs, but look at others. And the other thing that I noticed was that they have a standing committee for bylaws, so that maybe those individuals would maybe a couple times during the year take a couple of the bylaws and so forth, or go through and make sure everything's like up to date. Now, I don't know if that would be a worthwhile thing to also have a standing committee for policies and make sure the policies are up to date. So instead of everybody sitting here and trying to do, all of this together in an evening, perhaps having committees
To gather information.
to gather the information and then present what their findings are would be using our times more efficiently. So, I'm tossing that out there.
So these are the bylaws.
Yep.
Are there some sort of glaring, we need to fix here, here, and here?
Well, the reason why it's in front of you is because we don't have anything about term limits. And that was one of my concerns about not having term limits. And, it's not good to have somebody, just keep going, just like the position, keep going on and on and on, and always be the chairperson and so forth. I think it's healthy to have nice, fresh ideas come and join the table and so forth. So that's why I think I saw, and don't ask me which one, but it had something like serves 2 consecutive terms, which would be like 6 years. And then that person would have to take like either 1 year off, and then if they want to come back on, or maybe 1 term off, and then they can come back on if they still have that interest. So that's something that needs to be researched as far as term limits are concerned.
I had one question about that, or one concern about that. it seems to be a trend with a lot of the boards that it's hard to get people motivated and wanting to volunteer and wanting to do it.
Yes.
So we have to be careful that we don't go under the numbers for a quorum.
Yeah.
And it may contribute to that problem.
Sure. Yeah.
If
So
I'm
that's
on the
what-
board for 3 years, this is my second year now. You know, if I stepped up and took a job of somebody's for another year, then I would, you know, I'd either have to re-up and be on the board for another 3 years, or
Right.
or if I drop out, then
Well, and Kendra was not our only applicant for her position, so I wouldn't
Wonderful.
worry too much about.
Good.
Good.
That's good. My what got me thinking along these lines was, of course, we had someone on the board for a very, very long time, and then it became somewhat difficult. And it was and doesn't matter. It just was. She was just so used to being a part of the board, but then as time went on,
she wasn't coming.
she wasn't contributing.
Well, I think there were health problems.
Oh, yes,
For sure.
yes, and I think we all understood that, but it became difficult for some meetings. So that was some of my thoughts behind perhaps it might be a good idea in order to get nice fresh blood on our board, and have people more people take an interest in their library. I just think it's healthy, and I was hoping that you might be able to come up with something and maybe some wording.
Okay.
And then the other thing was the attendance at meetings. That was a part of it too, as far as, if somebody misses, 3 consecutive meetings or so, and they haven't contacted the library director, or they haven't let the chairperson know. Well, how do you want to handle that? Do you want a certified letter to go out after the second, after they've missed the second time, to tell them, you've missed, 2 consecutive meetings, and, and so forth. And then if they miss the third one, you just, then it's an automatic, we interpret this as you've resigned. So that's what I'm looking for, is how to go about this, because this has kind of been left not, in my mind, it's not as specific as to how to handle when you run up against a situation like that.
Okay, if you make a bylaws committee, how many people are going to be on that committee?
It can be 2 people, it can be, I believe, it can be 1 or 2,
Okay.
Can it?
What's in your bylaws? It has a committees. One or more.
One or more members,
So a committee can be one
each for
person.
such specific purpose.
Well, and the committee can meet outside of this room to discuss and figure stuff out
I think so,
without being on camera?
I think so.
yeah, as long as it's not a quorum.
Is that a quorum?
Well, then I make a motion that we form a bylaw committee of 1 or more people that volunteer to be on the bylaw committee, and we'll look at all this stuff, and we'll talk together, and we'll propose something. Does anybody else have any issues besides term limits and attendance? Seems to me, why would somebody want to be a trustee and then not show up and like be offended that they got booted? I mean, really, you know what I mean?
Well,
It's like, oh, I'm a trustee, I'm a big deal.
well, the only thing I can think of, and I don't want to seem like hard-nosed or anything like. There are things that come up in people's lives that, could be health, could
Yeah.
be taking care of a parent, and so forth. But I understand that. If there's something legit and they can't make it, they should let us know that's the situation. But it's when you just don't hear anything.
Right.
That's,
Right.
you know, it's like,
So I like that idea,
It
and
should
I
be a
think,
communications factor.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So again, I make a motion that we have a bylaws committee, and I volunteer to be one of the people on that committee.
okay.
Would anyone else like to help me? It doesn't seem like a big deal. It's 4 pages, come on. Who else would like to, who's with me? Who else wants to be on the bylaws committee? Anybody? Am I doing it alone?
I'll help you, Michael.
Okay, I got 2. Okay, so Melanie and I are the new bylaws committee,
Yay,
and we'll look at these things together.
okay.
We'll meet somewhere somehow, and maybe over lunch. And that's great. That's going to be fun.
Well, I think that's,
So we have a bylaws committee.
I think that's great.
Okay, what's next?
Do we have to second that motion?
Okay, I'll
Yes.
second it. I'll second it. Since I'm on the committee.
Right. Your first official act.
All right, cool.
All right. So, moving on.
Yeah.
Other business. Library Friends knows. Let me see. I know I have that. Okay. We have a new board member. The Friends met on the first Monday of the month, and they have a new board member. Her name is Maggie Tucker. She will serve a 3-year term. She has worked in bookshops and has volunteers at her local library. So she should, she's already starting with creative ideas, which is great.
And is she a director?
No.
She's just on the Friends
Oh,
board.
well, she's one of the directors.
On the Friends board.
Yeah, on the Friends board. Yep.
In what role? Just the director,
Just a director. Yep.
not president.
No. No. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
What they're doing right now is they're kind of doing the president as like on a rotation basis.
Oh,
That's how they're conducting the meeting.
that's creative.
Yeah. They're a creative group.
It is, it is.
Yeah.
It's a great group.
Yep. And my understanding is there's going to be another individual who'll be joining the group come September.
Oh,
So, but I don't want to say anybody's name in case she backs out.
don't do it.
Don't do it. Their spring newsletter was sent out to all the members and is on their Friends website. And they have over 340 members at this time. Erica Petrosky, she's the liaison between the library staff and the Friends. And she and 3 of the staff members attended a MLA conference, which was financially supplemented by the Friends. So she described her experience and distributed some items that they created there at the conference, and we oohed and awed over what they did, so forth. And some I understood did like poetry, and they did, there was like a book and so forth. I wished I had it so I could show you. But anyway, she said they got a lot out of it, a lot out of this particular conference, and happy to share it with the rest of the staff. The Friends were asked for additional museum passes. They were asked for approximately 11 more museum passes on top of what they already have. And due to the total cost of all those passes,
Right.
Erica was asked if she could get staff to prioritize the 11 passes.
Because you might not be able to fund them all.
Yeah.
Is
It's
Sturbridge Village one of them?
I believe it is one of one of the items, there's a whole slew
People
of,
have asked me about Strawbridgeville.
yeah, there's a whole slew of them.
Okay.
In the Connecticut Science Museum,
Oh, yeah, that's really.
they don't do passes. They offer coupons
Oh.
and so forth. So they did send the coupons
Oh.
to the library, and I don't know how they decided. It was strictly up to them as to how they decided to distribute them. Wasn't sure whether or not they might make them a part of the incentives for the summer reading, but at least there was something that did come from the Connecticut Science Museum.
How does providing free tickets to things benefit the library? It's just that, oh, you can go to the library and get free tickets?
Well, it's another service like that you can check out. I mean, you check these out, so instead of coming in for a book, you're coming in for that, or it's just another service that the library provides.
It supports our mission. We have a mission to provide educational
Right.
Okay, cool.
resources for the town. It supports our mission.
Got it. So the Friends pay for that?
Yep.
Okay.
And let's see. Oh, and the Friends were pleased to financially support the incentives for all 3 summer reading club programs, which start tomorrow. I guess it's tomorrow, or the kickoff's tomorrow.
Kickoff is tomorrow.
So
Are you aware that there's a young adult author in this town who's like world renowned, and she has bestsellers, and Victoria Aveyard is it? You know,
Yeah, she was very good friends with one of our former children's employees.
we should get her, you know, I mean, boy, if we could get her for this, that'd be tremendous. I mean, and I don't know, I don't know where she lives or anything, I don't know her, but she's like a friend of my son's or something, or her brother's or something like that. But to have somebody like that, wow, to sign books or to talk about, you could write a book too, or, you know, somebody should reach out
Because
to
some of these
her.
author visits, Michael, are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
So she lives in the town,
Yeah,
it's
and
her
so-
library.
so she may donate her time.
I know.
You never know until you ask.
Okay. It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
okay. Now, for those of you who were at our last meeting, I promised I would send you some slides from the Trustees Institute program. And it was about advocacy. Did you receive those? I sent those to your computers early on. No, you didn't get them?
So,
All right,
I didn't
send.
see it.
Okay, I'll send it out again. That's why
I'll have
I
to.
asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was back in April. There was this, Trustees Institute that took place in Worcester, and there was a slide program, and it was about advocacy, things to know about your library and so forth. So, the next item I put on here was just because we had an item we were discussing and so forth. I did an annual calendar just for like next year, so that encircled the 3rd Wednesday of every
Oh, there
month.
you go. It's good to have it.
I just thought
Thank you for doing
to
that.
see it.
Yeah.
To see it up
Yeah.
first, and so forth, and
Put it
rather
right
than,
there. Put it right next to the trash.
well, I
schedule.
mean, you can do whatever you want with it, but,
Remember to bring those barrels down.
well, I just thought that, sometimes to see it and look at it and is easier than flipping the calendar and going 1, 2, 3,
This is a
so-
great idea. See,
It
this
is.
is the kind of thing that a leader does. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Good for you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, well, anyway, so you can check it out, and
When we get our new calendars at the end of the year, we should all circle all these dates. Because every once in a while, I mean, we all have vacations and
yeah,
stuff, you know.
right,
Yeah.
right. And this I just did for the fiscal year, July to June. That was that. Then I went to the MBLC website to see if there was anything newsy, and it had an item I thought you might be interested in was on May 23rd, the Massachusetts State Senate passed its version of the FY 2020 budget, and 6 of the 7 line items overseen by the MBLC received the amount requested, which is a big deal because it just is. It's a significant increase for the libraries and will help stabilize the statewide resource sharing and saves money and gives residents access to 53.5 million items from libraries across the Commonwealth. And you can go to their website. I don't need to be reading to you, but what happens is this is the Senate side. The last month I was telling you the House side. And it sounds like the two of them are pretty close as far as numbers are concerned. So the House and Senate versions of the budget will be reconciled in a conference committee, and after the conference committee finishes their version of the budget, it will be voted on again by both chambers and then sent to the governor. So that's where the bottom line is, because it sounds like they're in total agreement or close to being almost identical in agreement, the two houses. So, I'm certainly hoping that will be the situation. It'd be fantastic. And last but not least, once again, MBLC website. They have Arlington libraries are now fine-free library. And what happens is that brought me back to last year when we were talking about a policy and whether or not to go fine-free or not fine-free and so forth. But I think it might be worth, reviewing that particular policy. I'm not saying tomorrow, but I'd like to know, I think, Melanie, you mentioned Palmer. Palmer had 1 day a week that was fine-free. And you brought it to our...
I can't even remember.
Palmer is totally fine-free now.
It's totally fine-free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So that would be children's, teens, and adults, all the...
everything. And
Is that the only one you know of, Layla?
No, there's quite a few.
they're
Around
out
here?
I would have to, I can't just off the top of my head,
if you
but
knew of any around.
there are quite a few in CW Mars, yeah,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
So that's Western Mass. So.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was my thoughts was
That's the new
maybe
trend,
it's,
right?
Yes.
that would be something that would be good to get more information
It
on.
would be.
Because last year I had reservations about it, and I was thinking of, fine-free Fridays or something like
Right.
that. And,
Then they'll keep their books till Friday.
but, it's worth taking a
I
look
think you either
at.
plunge in or you don't.
And it's good to let other libraries try to see what works for them.
Exactly.
And, we can see what...
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
How's it
does-
working, yeah.
Does anybody
What's the problem?
want to make some phone calls and just double check and, if you were to know which libraries were fine-free, just a call to just give us back some information about, how's it working, and so forth. Because Layla, you said that the fines really, they go into the general fund.
That's correct.
And so it really doesn't impact the library at all.
Well, it could, if they say, well, we're not getting very many fines, that, maybe we'll lower your budget or something.
But
Or
But-
an
but
offset
correct
to the
me
budget.
if
You
I'm
don't know
wrong.
what they could do.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't know what they could do.
when we had that discussion, though, people, if the books themselves disappeared and never came back after so many weeks or so many times, there wasn't there some type of
That's a different status for the item. It
Yeah.
then becomes lost and the person is responsible
Right.
for
Yeah.
paying for the replacement.
right. So
It's not like
Replacement
it's
cost,
not
right?
like it goes away forever and you can just keep that book.
right.
Then you have to either pay for the book and it's considered lost to the library.
Yeah.
And you'd be notified of that, right? They notify
Correct.
you.
So I think that, I'm thinking, it's something that we should go back and.
But I know there's a
and look.
misconception with the public about fines, and they just think they accrue, and they'll never be able to pay them because they've had the book for a month, and they can't afford to pay it, so they just ignore it and they don't use the library anymore. I know that has happened, and people think that way, and they're not aware that there's a upper cap to the amount of fines. And especially if it's a child, they don't have a source of income.
Right.
If their parent is yelling at them for hiding their books or whatever.
Right.
So, and then they lose their library privilege, which is not something we like to see.
Right.
At least I wouldn't like to see that.
Yep. So is there anything else for tonight's meeting?
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, there is, but nothing that we can't get through.
Mhm.
So I appreciate Michael and Melanie taking a look at some of these bylaws.
Yeah,
And
I appreciate that. That was a lot of my papers.
all right.
Couple more.
So our next meeting will be Wednesday, July 17, 2019, at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you,
All
Michael.
right.